Hey everybody, welcome to my channel, Jeeping with Joey. I'm Joey. Just want to let you guys know I just changed out the crank position sensor on my 1996 Jeep Cherokee XJ. It took me all of about 10-15 minutes. I used a 10mm socket, an 11mm socket, and two extensions, 13mm wrench, and a ratchet. That's all I needed. The 13mm wrench was to disconnect my battery cable. The 10mm socket was to take off the nut on the stud on the back driver's side of the engine, right there along the fuel rail, the very last stud on there. That's to unhook what's holding down the crank position sensor wire. When you get under the vehicle to replace your crank position sensor, you'll find two bolts, one on each end of the wings of this sensor here. The easiest way I found to do it was to take your left arm on the back side of the transmission cross member, push it up on the left side of the transfer case, and reach as far forward as you can. With your right arm, you're going to take your socket or your extension with the 11mm socket on it on the end of your ratchet. Reach up on the left side of the transmission, right on the left side of the transmission oil pan right there. Find the two bolts and loosen them up. Once you have them broken, then you can pop the actual ratchet off. Just use your fingers. Just use your fingers to turn out the two bolts, top and bottom. There's also a rubber cover sitting on the hole in the bell housing where the crank position sensor goes through. It's best if you leave that cover in place, I found. For some reason, that was the worst part of the job for me, is figuring out how to put that cover back on there. Now you're going to take the crank position sensor. It sits in the vehicle like this. So the wings are towards the front of the vehicle. You just drop your sensor in, right? And then use your extension with your 11mm socket on it, and by hand thread those in. Thread both those bolts into place. When you have them secure in there, then you pop the ratchet back on and tighten them up. I also found it easier if I plugged in the crank position sensor, the back of the engine there. I found it easier if you plug that in first and then drop it down. Once you drop it down the hole on the back side of the engine, by the engine and the transmission, you'll be able to reach up underneath and move it into place. And like I said, this job only took me between 10 and 15 minutes to complete. If you have any questions on how to do this, just drop them down there in the comment section, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Also, don't be surprised if after you complete this, you turn the engine over. Don't be surprised if it stumbles a couple times. The computer needs to learn the new sensor, right? So give it try to start it up. If it stumbles, shut it off. Try to start it up again. It took me like 3 times, and now my engine is running perfectly. Everything's running fine. A couple of symptoms I knew, or a couple of symptoms I had, that led me to believe that I needed to change my crank position sensor. Well, the first was an extended start. I'd have to crank the engine excessively, turn the key off, and then crank it again, and then it would start. When it was started, I had a high idle, set about 12 or 1300 RPM. So, like everybody else, what I did first was remove the throttle body, remove the IAC, clean that all up, reinstall it. After doing so, I still had the same issues. So I decided to change the crank position sensor. I just came back from my test drive. I ran it for about 10 minutes. Everything seems fine. There's no shuddering. There's no shutting off. Nothing like that. Everything's great so far. A lot of people ask me how many miles I have on this 96. I have 276,000 miles on this 96. Let's see if I can get a shot for you. 276,573 miles on this 96. And it runs like a top now that I changed that sensor out. Thanks. Oh, I tried to film this for you, but I'm just a one-man shop here. And I couldn't figure out how to do it holding the camera, reaching up next to the bell housing, doing all that stuff. So I thought I would just give you a step-by-step, you know, tutorial or whatever you want to call it. Hopefully you found this helpful. If so, give it a like. Give me a follow on the channel. I just ordered some more parts to put on the Jeep. I ordered the case suspensions headlight wiring harness that wires your headlights directly to the battery. Kind of excited to put that on. I live here in Colorado. We get a lot of snow and I can't use the LED headlights. Well, I could use the ones with the heating elements, but if you don't have the heating elements, then you're stopping every mile to wipe snow off your LED headlights. They don't create enough heat. So by putting this this case suspensions wiring harness on, you pull full voltage to the headlights from the battery, giving it a nice a brighter light for you. That's coming in. I found some cup holders that sit in here, which will be real nice. Everybody driving the XJ knows it'd be nice to have cup holders up front. But anyways, that's all I got for now. If you have any questions, leave it down below. Like I said before, if you found this helpful, please give me a like, please give me a follow, and if you don't mind, tap that bell so that you can get notifications whenever I upload. Again, have a good day, everybody. Talk to you later.